Forget the daydreams about being a billionaire for a second. Today we're going to fight over one specific number. Not 1 million, not 10 million, 20,000. If you say $20,000 at a hedge fund dinner, someone will smirk because that's their appetizer budget. But if you ask the people who actually understand long games, the kind of people who think in decades, they'll tell you something uncomfortable. The first $20,000 is the hardest money you will ever build, and it's the most important. Why that number? Because wealth isn't only finance, it's physics. There's a concept called escape velocity. When a rocket launches, the first minutes are the brutal part. It burns a ridiculous amount of fuel, not because space is harder, but because Earth is. The rocket has to fight gravity at its strongest and push through thick atmospheric resistance. For most people, the stretch from $0 to $20,000 is the same thing, a personal gravity well. In that zone, you don't feel like you're moving forward. You feel like you're surviving constantly, and survival is expensive. Let's say you've got $900 saved. Your car needs a repair, $400. That's not an expense, that's a possible missed rent payment. You get a medical issue, $150 now, or you ignore it and it becomes $1,500 later. Not because you're irresponsible, because you're boxed in. One late fee, one overdraft, one minimum payment spiral, and suddenly your money isn't working for you. It's working against you. This is the hidden tax of poverty. The poorer you are, the more life charges you for being poor. Low balances mean bank fees. Late rent means penalties. Cheap items break faster. Payday credit bleeds you dry. It's not just that you have less money, it's that the entire system becomes a weight on your chest. That's why I'm saying it straight. Until you have $20,000, most investment advice is basically noise. Dividends won't save you. Compounding won't save you. Not yet. Because if your base is tiny, even a great return is still nothing in real life. A 50% gain on $500 is $250. It doesn't change your month. It doesn't change your stress. It doesn't change your choices. And because it doesn't change anything, people get desperate. They start chasing miracle wins. They jump into risky bets. They gamble because slow progress feels like no progress. Then one bad hit wipes them out, and they're back at zero again, carrying bricks uphill. So the first goal isn't becoming rich. The first goal is takeoff. It's building enough financial thrust to break out of the gravity well, because once you cross that line, something strange happens. The air gets thinner. Life stops punishing you for being broke. The resistance drops, and you start noticing that effort actually stays in your hands instead of leaking out through emergencies. So here's the real question, and I want you to be honest with yourself. Are you still inside the gravity well, or are you climbing out? Because if you're below this number, the next part matters more than motivation, more than inspiration, more than any side hustle list. You need a plan that's built for this stage, a plan designed for a person who's still fighting gravity. Let's assume you've done it. You crossed the line. There's $20,000 sitting in your account. Nothing dramatic happened. You didn't move neighborhoods. You didn't upgrade your car. Nobody clapped. But something changed inside you, and it's not visible from the outside. I call it refusal power. Most people think wealth begins when you can buy things. It doesn't. Wealth begins the first time you can say no without fear. Let's run a simple scenario. 2 employees, same salary, same skills, same office. One has $500 in savings. The other has $20,000. The boss walks in and says, "I need you to work all weekend. No overtime pay." The first employee doesn't calculate fairness. He calculates survival. If I lose this job, how do I pay rent? How long can I last? What happens next week? His brain floods with stress. Decision-making narrows. He complies, even if it violates his standards. Now look at the second employee. He doesn't panic. His heart rate doesn't spike. Because even if he quits today, he survives. He can evaluate the request calmly. He can negotiate. He can walk away. He probably won't quit. But because he can, he holds leverage. That's refusal power. If you cannot walk away, you cannot negotiate. That $20,000 isn't spending money, it's dignity capital. There's research showing that financial stress reduces cognitive bandwidth. When you're constantly worried about money, your mental capacity shrinks. Decision-making quality drops. Long-term thinking disappears. It's not that people in scarcity lack intelligence, it's that anxiety consumes processing power. When you finally have breathing room, your brain changes modes. You move from survival thinking to strategic thinking. You start asking different questions. Not, can I afford groceries this week, but what skill can I build over the next 6 months? Not, how do I avoid disaster, but where can I position myself for advantage? That's not motivational talk. That's neurological relief. Money doesn't buy happiness, but it absolutely buys reduced panic. And reduced panic is clarity. At $20,000, something else happens. Your relationships change. Arguments about bills decrease. You're less reactive. You're more patient. Why? Because you're no longer operating under constant threat. Think of it this way. Before $20,000, money owns you. After $20,000, money becomes a tool. It's not enough to retire, it's not enough to flex, but it's enough to stand upright. There's another uncomfortable truth. Many people driving luxury cars have less refusal power than someone with a paid-off old sedan and $20,000 in cash. Debt cancels leverage. Appearances don't equal strength. Liquidity equals strength. And that's why this threshold matters more than most milestones people brag about online. Because the first real upgrade in life isn't visible, it's psychological armor. Now we move to something more mechanical. Psychology is powerful, but math is merciless. And in the next part, we're going to talk about why $20,000 isn't just a comfort line. It's the moment the compound engine actually starts. Now we talk about math. Not exciting math, not lottery math, real math. Compound interest is famous. People call it magical. But here's what most people misunderstand. Compounding only works once you reach critical mass. Think of it like a chain reaction. Without enough material, nothing ignites. Below $5,000 or $10,000, even strong returns barely register in real life. Let's run numbers. Assume you're exceptional. You manage to earn 10% annually, which already puts you ahead of most professionals. If you have $1,000, that's $100. That $100 does not change your month. It does not pay rent. It does not reduce stress. It disappears into daily expenses. That's why early-stage investors get frustrated. They study charts. They obsess over strategy. They try to squeeze every percent out of small capital. But the problem isn't strategy, it's scale. Now run the same math at $20,000. 10% is $2,000. Now we're talking. $2,000 can cover a major expense. It can buy time. It can reduce pressure. And here's the psychological twist. When your money can pay a meaningful bill, you stop feeling alone. Capital becomes a silent partner. It doesn't sleep. It doesn't complain. It just produces. This is the moment where money begins to assist you instead of mocking you. And here's where patience matters. Let's assume you don't add a single extra dollar. You simply let $20,000 compound at 7 to 10%, using a simple doubling rule. At roughly 7 to 10%, money doubles every 7 to 10 years. 20,000 to 40,000, 40,000 to 80,000, 80,000 to 160,000, 160,000 to 320,000, 320,000 to 640,000. You didn't chase hype. You didn't gamble. You didn't try to 10x overnight. You let time do the heavy lifting. But here's the key lesson. Before $20,000, focus on accumulation. After $20,000, focus on protection and patience. This is where most people self-destruct. They finally hit the milestone and suddenly feel tempted to accelerate. Crypto gamble, options trading, high-yield miracle strategies. Why? Because they underestimate slow compounding. They look at $2,000 per year and think it's small, but they forget the snowball rule. You don't throw snow at the hill, you build a tight core first. That $20,000 is your first compact snowball. Without it, nothing sticks. With it, gravity changes direction. Before this threshold, gravity pulls you down. After it, gravity pulls your snowball forward. That's the pivot point. But here's the dark reality. Most people never hold this line. They hit $20,000 and then lose it. Not because they're unlucky, because they fail the filter. Now we enter the most dangerous phase. Reaching $20,000 is hard. Keeping it is harder. There's a concept in evolutionary theory called the Great Filter, a barrier so difficult that most life forms never pass it. In personal finance, $20,000 is that filter. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Many people have had $20,000 at some point in their lives. Very few still have it. Why? Because once you have money, temptation increases exponentially. When you were broke, there was nothing to spend. Now you have options, and options are dangerous. You worked 3 years, skipped vacations, wore old clothes, drove the same tired car. You finally see $20,000 in your account, and suddenly your brain whispers, "You deserve something." This is the reward trap. Your old car makes a strange noise. You pass a dealership. You see the exact down payment amount on a shiny SUV. The number matches your savings. Your brain performs a dangerous calculation. I can afford it. And that is the moment the filter activates. Most people sign the check. They feel victorious driving home. But what actually happened? They converted a wealth engine into a liability. The second the car leaves the lot, it depreciates. Worse, the compound engine you just built is dismantled. You're not back at zero, you're below zero. Because now you have higher insurance, higher fuel, higher maintenance, and possibly debt. And here's the cruel twist. After tasting the pleasure of the upgrade, frugality becomes emotionally harder. The gravity well reopens, and climbing out the second time is much more difficult. But temptation isn't just internal, it's social. There's something called the crab bucket effect. Put one crab in a bucket, it might escape. Put many crabs in a bucket, whenever one climbs, the others pull it down. When you start saving aggressively, when you decline expensive dinners, when you refuse lifestyle inflation, people around you may become uncomfortable. They'll say, "Why save so much? Money is meant to be enjoyed. Stop being cheap." It's rarely malicious, it's defensive. Your discipline exposes their indulgence, and subconsciously that feels threatening. To pass the filter, you must tolerate being misunderstood. You must accept short-term social friction for long-term structural freedom. The $20,000 is not there to reward your past. It is there to finance your future. If you consume the seed, there is no harvest. This stage tests something deeper than math. It tests identity. Do you see yourself as someone who deserves long-term autonomy, or someone who trades tomorrow for comfort today? Passing the filter is not about intelligence. It's about restraint. If you resist lifestyle inflation, if you hold the line, if you keep the snowball intact, you've done something rare. You've entered the minority. Now we move from philosophy to execution, because $20,000 is not the destination, it's the launch platform. And the next mission is clear, from $20,000 to $100,000. Now we stop talking about survival, we start talking about structure. If you have $20,000 intact, congratulations, you are no longer fragile. But you are not yet powerful. This stage is not about gambling, it's about positioning. The biggest mistake people make right here? They start hunting for the big one. They think, this is my chance to 10x. No, this is your chance to build architecture. We divide your $20,000 into 2 strategic layers. 1. The bulletproof vest. 2. The growth engine. The bulletproof vest. Take $5,000 to $10,000. Park it somewhere safe. High-yield savings, treasury bills, ultra-safe liquid instruments. This money is not for investing. It is for protection. It is your insurance policy against chaos. Why? Because without liquidity, you panic, and panic destroys portfolios. Most investors don't lose money because markets fall. They lose money because life forces them to sell during a fall. If your car breaks down, if you lose your job, if medical bills hit, you use the vest, not your investments. The vest protects your long-term strategy from short-term volatility. Without it, you are still fragile. With it, you become stable. The growth engine. The remaining $10,000 to $15,000, those are your soldiers. And here's where people expect something dramatic. But the strategy is boring, on purpose. Buy the haystack, low-cost index funds, broad market exposure. Why? Because you are not trying to outsmart the market. You are trying to attach yourself to economic growth. You don't need genius, you need participation. If the economy grows over decades, and historically it does, your capital grows with it. This is not flashy, it's structural. And while that engine runs quietly in the background, something more important must happen. The turbocharger, asymmetric risk. This is where acceleration begins. With $20,000 secured, you can now take intelligent risk. Not reckless risk, asymmetric risk. Downside limited, upside open. The best example? Investing in yourself. Take $1,000 to $2,000. Acquire a skill, certification, software competency, sales ability, coding, trade specialization, public speaking. If it fails, you lose a small sum. If it works, your earning power increases permanently. If a skill raises your income by $500 per month, that's $6,000 per year. Over 10 years, that's $60,000. Find me a legal stock that guarantees that kind of asymmetry. You won't. Human capital is the highest return asset class in early wealth building. Poor people cannot take this risk. They have no buffer. You can. That's the difference. Now your wealth growth has two engines. 1, market compounding. 2, income expansion. This dual engine is what drives you toward $100,000. The 3 death traps. Before we move forward, I need to give you the red list. 3 mistakes that reset everything. 1. Leverage. Do not borrow to invest. Debt removes time. Markets fluctuate. If you are leveraged, you don't control when you exit. You get liquidated. Compounding requires patience. Debt eliminates patience. 2. Complexity. You don't understand options, futures, high-frequency speculation, crypto hype cycles. When your capital base is still small, complexity equals vulnerability. If you lose 50% at $20,000, you are back in the gravity well. Defense before offense, always. 3. Premature house buying. This one shocks people. At $20,000, buying a house often kills mobility. Your refusal power disappears. Mortgage equals obligation. Obligation reduces flexibility. Flexibility is worth more than forced ownership too early. $100,000 is a better milestone for major fixed commitments. Until then, liquidity is power. The acceleration phase. Once you pass $20,000 and avoid the traps, something interesting happens. You stop feeling desperate. You stop reacting emotionally. You begin making moves strategically. And when income rises while investments compound, the jump to $100,000 happens much faster than the climb to $20,000. Why? Because you are no longer pushing the snowball uphill. Now gravity works for you. When you hit $100,000, the machine becomes loud. You can feel compounding. It becomes visible. But we're not done, because money changes more than numbers. It changes biology. And the final chapter is not about assets. It's about what money does to your nervous system.